Hello, everybody. My name is Martha Alter Hines. All right, in this video, I'm going to do what you guys asked for, which is take Pluto in Aquarius through the houses. And as I'm doing that, I'm not only going to talk about Pluto, I'm also going to weave in Uranus, which is going to be in this long-term trine with Pluto over the coming year. And Uranus is also going to be going, so Uranus in 2025 is going to, it's currently in Taurus. It will enter Gemini in 2025 and it'll go back into Taurus. So it'll in 2025, Uranus is going to be doing a dance between Taurus and Gemini. And as it does that dance, it will be trining Pluto. It will also be with Sedna as it enters Gemini. And as it's doing the dance back and forth between Taurus and Gemini, it's going to be with the Pleiades. So all of those energies are there. I'm mostly going to focus on Pluto and Uranus and the energy potentially of the Pleiades. But as with all things, all the time, there are so many components here. And so just to simplify, I'm just going to focus on those. But, you know, of course, it's overly simplified in reality. And yeah, that's my caveat. But hopefully this will give you a good grounding in some way or spark things for you to explore more deeply in your own life or your own chart. And so I'm going to start out by just saying a little bit about what I feel with this configuration in general. So I'm going to bring up the chart of the moment. I'm recording this on November 20th, 2024. So this is the day after Pluto just entered Aquarius yesterday. And so it's a very fresh energy. And so here is Pluto at 0 degrees, 1 minute of Aquarius. Again, just having entered Aquarius yesterday. And you can see Uranus here going retrograde at 25 degrees of Taurus. And the Pleiades are, approximately at 29 of Taurus and 0 and 1-ish of Gemini. But when you look in the sky, any planet that is within several degrees of that area, I mean, is going to be in the sky in the area of the Pleiades. So it's not precise in that way, really. For me, energetically, it's, more broad. So I would say Uranus already, I feel in the energetic area of the Pleiades, even though it's not precisely there right this minute. And as we can see, Pluto and Uranus are not precisely in a trine right this minute, but they're in that energetic. And again, Uranus will be heading into Gemini in 2025. And so we'll be in that trine for the coming year. Okay, so so the big theme I'm also going to focus on, again, there's infinite themes with any of these transits, but the theme I'm really feeling called to drop into is that as Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius now and is now ruled by, or whatever word you want to use for that, is in this very strong relationship with Uranus just because of the sign of Aquarius. And Pluto is in this trine with Uranus, so kind of extra in this relationship, this dance with Uranus. Wherever Pluto is transiting in our charts, it feels really important also to ground in with the influence of Uranus, both at the same time. And of course, again, there's so many other things going on, but those two things are definitely working together. And so as I spoke about, and I recently, a couple of days ago, I channeled a video about Pluto entering Aquarius, and I channeled Gaia because one of the big energetics I feel happening in general as Pluto is entering Aquarius is that there's also this call and this need for us to stay very, very grounded in the reality that we are Gaia, Uranus in Taurus ruling Aquarius. And not only for us to stay grounded as Gaia, but also that as we're grounded, we're also held to go into quantum levels now. So that's one of the biggest energies I'm personally feeling, is this potential for us to be in this co-creative oneness and groundedness with Gaia herself and the quantum light, like to basically do a quantum leap in our own being in concert with and very grounded with in the earth. So not like go quantum and just, you know, really like lose ourselves. That's not the point. It's to go quantum, but in a very, very grounded way. So as I'm going through the houses, I'm going to really focus on what's the potential here for you, perhaps, to go quantum. Like, in what areas of your life what areas might be particularly highlighted for you to be going quantum in some sense. And again, none of this is actually this simple. You'd have to look at your entire chart. You'd have to see what planets are really being highlighted. You know, there might be other things going on in your chart that are just so important that I'm not going to be touching on here because I don't have your chart in front of me, and I'm not talking specifically about any one chart. But yeah, hopefully, again, this will be a starting place for you to go more deeply with your own experience. Okay, so let's start here with, hang on one sec. All right, so yeah, let's start with an Aries ascendant. So as I talked about I did a video also going through the houses, where I talked about the Saturn-Jupiter square, which is still relevant through 2025. So go back, that's still relevant now. The second of those squares actually is going to be December 24th, 2024. And the third square will be in June of 2025. So that video is relevant for many more months. So go back and listen to that if you want to dive more into the Saturn-Jupiter square. But what I said in there is relevant here, which is when I talk about, let's say, the Aries ascendant, listen, okay, if you have an Aries ascendant, listen to what I'm about to say about Aries ascendant, but also listen to Taurus ascendant. And in some cases, possibly even Pisces ascendant. So in other words, listen to your own sign plus the one ahead of you and maybe the one behind you. Because I don't work with whole sign. I work with the Placidus or Porphyry system. And yeah, and in that way of working, you're very unlikely to have a 0-degree ascendant. So you probably have an ascendant degree that's something other than 0, right? And and therefore, what I'm about to say might apply to you, or the sign one ahead of your own sign maybe is more applicable. So yeah, so just take a look at your own chart and see which one actually makes the most sense. But listen to all of it because all might be interesting. Okay, so with the Aries ascendant, chances are you have your Pluto in your 10th house. It might be moving into your 11th house, but I'm going to talk here assuming it's in your 10th house right now. This is the transiting. Everything I'm talking about here is the transiting Pluto and the transiting Uranus, not your natal Pluto or Uranus. What's going on in the sky relative to when you were born. So yeah, so if you have an Aries ascendant, chances are very high that the transiting Pluto is currently in your 10th house, and therefore Uranus is probably in your 2nd house. So when we're talking about these themes of what areas of your life maybe are being supported to transform in a way to go quantum, right? And to go quantum in concert with and in co-creation with Gaia, with the earth. Okay, so for you, you maybe want to feel into 10th house and second house themes. So if you if you have an Aries ascendant, Pluto very likely is activating your 10th house, the area of your life, maybe having to do with career, what you feel called to do in the world, how society sees you. Could possibly even be marriage, but marriage in the sense of like societal norms around how your relationship shows up in the world. So there might be a sense for you of deep transformation around career, et cetera, et cetera. And then what's so fascinating is then that Uranus is supporting you to come into deep divine truth and maybe a quantum leap in not only how you show up in the world, but also your relationship to resources, second house, right? Which, and of course, the two go together. Because if you're feeling a call to transform how you do your career or your work or what you're doing in the world, chances are pretty good that that's touching on your basic sense of survival and, how am I going to make enough money to do this thing that I'm feeling called now that's wanting to transform. So those two are really being supported at the same time. So I would say for you, potentially this quantum leap opportunity is really, really this co-creative dance of supporting you to come into new ways of being in relationship to resources, money, your own self-value, and then how you show up in the world. All right. So that's Aries ascendant. Then moving to Taurus ascendant. Okay, so one really, really significant thing about a Taurus ascendant is that if you have a Taurus ascendant, chances are very, very high you also have probably an Aquarius midheaven, maybe Capricorn. But yeah, so depending on the degrees of your chart, if you have a Taurus ascendant, take a look at your midheaven, and there is a chance that Pluto is actually going back and forth over your midheaven, while Uranus might be going back and forth over your ascendant. Because again, Uranus is currently in Taurus. So if you have a Taurus ascendant at the end degrees of Taurus, Uranus is currently transiting your ascendant, which is a really big deal. And I've worked with two people lately who have Uranus transiting their ascendant at the same time that Pluto is on their midheaven. So if that happens to be true for you, this is a majorly transformative moment in your life. I mean, you're being supported to transform how you show up in the world, midheaven, but also your own identity, ascendant, and to come into this radical new truth, like quantum leap truth of who am I and how am I called to come into the world, like, or manifest myself in the world. So if that happens to be the case for you, that'd be very specific. Not all Taurus ascendant is going to have that reality going on. But if that happens to be you, this is a really, really, really big time for you. And you probably know that already. It's probably not news to you. But yeah, but just for Taurus ascendant in general, let's assume you have Pluto then in your 9th house. So you might have Pluto in your 10th house. You might have Pluto in your 9th house. I'm just going to assume you have Pluto in your 9th house, just for the sake of moving along in what I'm talking about here in this video. Okay, so if you have Pluto in your 9th house, probably you have Uranus in your 1st house. Or like I said, you might have Pluto on your MC and Uranus on your ascendant, even to be more precise. But in general, if you have Pluto in your 9th house, that is an opportunity for you to be getting supported to really transform your whole, it could be your whole outlook on life, like your whole sense of what meaning is, your whole sense of what you're here to do in terms of your own being as a teacher, or you might be going through a big transformation about your belief system. Um, all kinds of things could be possible, like how your whole perspective on the big picture of life. Um, and then with Uranus transiting your first house, again, that could be this really deep, coming into deep alignment, divine truth alignment with who am I on an identity level? Like, who are you? Like, so you could be going kind of, one possibility with this combination would be you could be feeling a big kind of existential crisis, like, what is the meaning of life and who am I at the same time? Right. And again, so those two things go together. And this could be a really important, life-changing transition time where your horizons are opened in this whole new way, and there's an opportunity for you to get really grounded, which if you have a Taurus ascendant, your soul already is needing and wanting to do and be, but you need to stay really, really grounded as you then expand into this whole new butterfly of your belief system of your whole consciousness, potentially in a really beautiful way. Okay. And then let's move on to Gemini ascendant. Okay, so if you have a Gemini ascendant, you might have Pluto transiting your 9th house, which I just talked about, or you might have Pluto transiting your 8th house. So I'm just going to assume, we're just going to pretend that Pluto's in your 8th house, which would make Uranus probably in your 12th house. And super key with Gemini ascendant, if you have a Gemini ascendant, anywhere 11 degrees of Gemini and up, so 11 through 29 degrees of Gemini, you're having a mega Jupiter transit as well. So Jupiter is currently retrograde at 18 degrees of Gemini. It's going to continue going retrograde until February 4th, 2025, where it's going to go direct at 11 degrees of Gemini. So if you have a Gemini ascendant 11 and up, you are having Jupiter crossing your ascendant either now or coming up. And so that's really important to pay attention to. You might also have Saturn, which is in this long-term square with Jupiter, on your midheaven or crossing your midheaven, or squaring your ascendant and descendant. So go back and watch that Jupiter Saturn through the houses video that I did a while ago, and I say more in there about that. But definitely, if you have a Gemini ascendant, pay attention to where Jupiter might be transiting your chart, because if Jupiter is crossing your ascendant, that's a really big deal, and you're getting supported in a big way to come into something maybe freeing up for you to come into yourself in a whole new way, like your identity might be really expanding, or new horizons opening, or something along those lines. And at the same time, you then potentially have Pluto in your 8th house or 9th house, but we're gonna talk about Pluto being in the 8th house with Uranus in the 12th house. Okay, so Pluto transiting the 8th house in general, now that it's shifted into Aquarius, could be supporting you to come into, okay, so Pluto in 8th house, period, regardless of the sign, is a deep, deep soul level transformative time, potentially. You could be getting supported for many, many years right now to just go into a deep dive into your soul. Like, who am I on that deep soul level? What is it that I kind of need to excavate from the depths of my being? Like, I need to find those jewels in the bottom of my underworld, my own personal underworld. Maybe there's things that need to clear karmically or psychologically or emotionally. But also there are mega, mega, mega jewels there for me to find. And Pluto going through your 8th house would almost certainly be supporting you to be doing that. But then but then you have Uranus transiting your 12th house, which could be helping you to come into this quantum realm of your relationship with the divine, with the meaning, your meaning of life, but not so much the 9th house version of meaning of life, more of the 12th house version. So like maybe you're having awakening experiences in connecting with the spirit world, or the earth realms, because again, Uranus currently is in Taurus. At the same time that you're doing this deep excavating of your own soul truth and finding your own power of your soul, and at the same time potentially that Jupiter's going back and forth over your ascendant. So it could be a time, if you have this Jupiter ascendant, if you have this Gemini ascendant, where you're really, really being supported to come to the depth of your being, open up to your exquisite, like pure ways of connecting with the spirit world, or with spirit in general, or with the divine, your own divine truth on the really, really highest quantum ultimate level. And then bring that, like open that up in the way that you're able to manifest that in who am I? Okay. So again, this is general, but hopefully this helps. And then moving on to Cancer ascendant. All right. So if you have a Cancer ascendant, you might have Pluto also in the 8th house, or maybe in your 7th house. So I'm going to talk as though you have it in your 7th house. However, one thing is really important about Cancer ascendant, and this will also be true for Leo ascendant. If you have Cancer ascendant or Leo ascendant, if your ascendant is at the very end degrees of Cancer or the very, very beginning degrees of Leo, you have just had Pluto transiting your descendant. So that's this part of the chart over here, the beginning of the 7th house. So Pluto, if it has just been crossing your descendant, that can be a very transformative time in terms of how you relate to others. So either your sense of relationship itself, and or your identity, in terms of like gender identity, sexual orientation identity, all kinds of things that might play into how you relate with others, and of course yourself, right? But if you have a late degrees Cancer ascendant, or very, very early Leo ascendant, pay attention to that might be a really big transformative energy going on for you. And in general, if you have a Cancer ascendant and Pluto then in your 7th house, you are definitely having this supportive energy around relationships and how you feel called to be in relationship with others. And that could be all different kinds of relationships. But as Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius now, there could be possibly a sense of like a quantum leap in the kind of relating that you feel called into. Or maybe there's a sense of a whole new kind of relationship that maybe is possible, or your sense of what love is might be changing really powerfully, or your own relationship to the divine feminine and the divine masculine might be really taking a quantum leap in some very, very powerful ways. And then while that's happening, while Pluto's in your 7th house, probably Uranus then would be in your 11th house. And so this can be complementing what's going on with the Pluto in your 7th house, because Uranus in your 11th house in Taurus right now could be really opening up a quantum level of what is community, what is friendship, what is what are the new horizons available on all of these levels. And yeah, so it just could be really enhancing this potential quantum leap of the Pluto in your 7th house. So again, you know, what are the kind of new horizons out there about what relationship means, how we want to construct this, how we want, what structures are actually supportive to the truth of your own divine being around relating to others. But the need there still is to be very, very grounded in it, right? Not to just go off on some ideal that isn't grounded. That could those ideals, if they're super extreme, can be very hurtful, right? That sort of shadow side could be going too far in that. But the Taurus is there helping. Gaia is here helping ground what is the real truth of me as a being of Gaia and pure love, in how I feel called to bring relating and love and relationship into my own being and into the world. And Gaia, again, Gaia co-creating that with you, with us. It feels extra important, the Gaia part. I mean, that's important for all of what I'm talking about, but that's just feeling really extra important. Okay. And now Leo ascendant. So if you have a Leo ascendant, like I just said, especially if you have early degrees of Leo ascendant, you're going to have Pluto transiting your descendant. So repeat everything I just said about what that means. That will definitely be true for you either now or coming up. If you have early degrees of Leo ascendant. So, you know, this year, if you have 0 to 3 degrees of Leo ascendant, this will be true for you in 2025. And beyond that, for Pluto will be in Aquarius for almost 20 years. So if you have an ascendant in the end degrees of Leo, then Pluto won't be on your descendant for another, 15, almost 20 years. Yeah. But in general, if you have a Leo ascendant, chances are good that Pluto is probably in your 6th house and Uranus is in your 10th house. So Pluto in your 6th house, this is a really interesting combination. So yeah, 6th house has to do with the body, your daily routines, about how you take care of yourself, like preventative health kind of things. It's very Virgo-ish, it also has to do with your work, but not so much like your calling, more like how am I going to be of service, like my day-to-day routines and even the systems I put in place to be of service in the work I do in the world. So Pluto there could be supporting you to come into like a quantum leap with regard to any of those things, your body, your health, your day-to-day practices of taking care of yourself, and also of being of service in the world. And so there might be this really like a quantum leap available for really listening to your body, listening to yourself, because at the same time that Pluto is in your 6th house, you have Uranus over here in your 10th house, and Uranus in your 10th house in Taurus could be kind of breaking up like more like I want to say calcified notions of what society, what you feel society is telling you you should do or shouldn't do. And giving you an opportunity to really get the wisdom from deep inside your own body knowing, right? Like if there's like health things going on for you, this could be an opportunity for you to really feel on quantum levels, like beautiful, deep quantum knowing what your body already knows is right for you, and being able to hear that and listen to that and implement it in new ways. Like if your body just knows, okay, I've got to, I don't know, every morning walk out under the trees or something, or do yoga, you know, in the fresh air, or drink a glass of water. Like I haven't been drinking water enough or something. And suddenly your body wakes up to the reality, wow, I really am dehydrated. I need water. You know, I mean, there's so many examples. Could be super simple things, but could make a big shift in your being or your sense of wellness. That could be very, very alive for you. So that would be the Leo ascendant. And possibly Virgo ascendant. Let's see. Yeah, maybe. If you have a Virgo ascendant, you might have Pluto entering your 6th house, maybe. Okay, but Virgo ascendant, which is my ascendant. And I know a lot of others of you as well. Okay, so if you have a Virgo ascendant, probably you have Pluto in the 5th house, and you have Uranus in the 9th house. And and you might have Jupiter crossing back and forth over your midheaven, which is a big deal. Okay, so Pluto in the 5th house, you're probably getting supported on some level to come do a quantum leap with regard to your own self-actualization and your own relationship to life force, and like the solar energy, like the life force energy that is your own being, really being called to be in concert with Gaia, right? And in that video I made a couple days ago where I channeled Gaia, this is definitely what I was feeling personally. Again, I do have a Virgo ascendant, is the sense of the creative life force of Gaia herself coming alive. And I don't think this is just true for people with Virgo ascendant at all. At all. I think it's true for all of us, but I was feeling it especially strongly that day. I'm still feeling it. That creative life force of Gaia rising up through her body, through her being, moving into my body, you know, our own personal bodies, our own beings, and co-creating together as the creative life force of Source itself. So this quantum leap in our co-creative life force relationship with the earth, and that really being the thing that then becomes the engine that fuels all of what we're here to be doing, and specifically potentially what we're here to be doing as teachers, as leaders, 9th house stuff, like or even in your, if you're not feeling called to be a teacher or a leader, quote unquote, but maybe even your belief system, your way of perceiving the world. Like I can say for me, yes, I'm definitely feeling this activation of my creative life force and this quantum leap of that, and coming into this deep co-creative relationship with Gaia as I'm moving in that. But another thing that's happening for me big time is that Uranus is right on my own Jupiter in my 9th house, right? So it's not only, it's in my 9th house, but it's also on my Jupiter, which happens to be in my 9th house. So it's like I'm getting double that kind of transit. And my whole conception of what it is I'm here to be teaching has been in a complete revolution. So over the last year and a half, 2 years. So I'm teaching astrology, for example, but the way I'm teaching astrology, like the way I even conceive of astrology, is a whole different world from a year ago. You know, it's like, wow, it's very, very Uranian kind of influence in my ninth house and my Jupiter energies. And that's definitely in concert with this deep transformative quantum leap I'm feeling with my own creative life force. So fifth house, ninth house being activated by Pluto and Uranus at the same time. And then, Jupiter transiting the midheaven also could be opening up horizons for how you feel called to be in the world, or there's so many possibilities there. That's definitely happening for me and could be happening for us in all different ways. Yeah. Okay. And I also just notice again, if you have the Virgo ascendant, you probably have Saturn now having gone direct at 12 of Pisces in your seventh house, squaring that Jupiter. So, go back and listen to that Jupiter Saturn square through the houses video. But this Saturn Jupiter square would probably be activating your angles. So your descendant and your MC, and really active in your chart, which it definitely is for me. Okay. Next, Libra ascendant. All right. So if you have a Libra ascendant, you probably have Pluto transiting your fourth house and Uranus transiting your eighth house. So in general, Pluto transiting the fourth house can be a deep transformative time with regard to your emotional body, your home life, your family, maybe your ancestral roots. And at the same time, you're having Uranus in your eighth house, which is that area of the chart that can have to do with our deep, deep, deep soul truth, right? That deep soul, deepest part of our being. At the same time, Pluto's in the fourth house, which is kind of the most tender part of our being. Eighth house is like the deepest part of ourselves. Fourth house is more of like the tenderest part. So they're both very vulnerable in a way. So this combination could be quite, tender and vulnerable. It could be maybe you might be needing a lot of space and time to yourself, possibly like maybe a lot of deep inner tender work going on in your own being. Like you might just need a lot of time to rest and be held, and like be held in yourself, right? And so it could be possibly a lot of transformation going on that's not even really you're not even able to put into words. Like maybe there's just a lot of deep inner pre-verbal kind of transformation going on. But with the point, the outcome really being eventually about coming into the deepest, most pure truth of who you are, and then being able to come out of the shell, like the shell of Cancer, fourth house, um, in a new, maybe still tender kind of a way, but having a much more, I want to say, compassionate sense of who you are and what you need on those deep, tender levels. You might also just be having like pretty big transformation around your relationship to family, to home, and Uranus in your eighth house could be really anchoring you, supporting you to anchor into what is your deepest truth of who you are, um, and really anchoring there as you come into new kind of quantum understandings of what family is, of what your true emotional needs are and how to get them met. And yeah, this one's a little tricky because it's so deeply personal feeling that it's a little hard to generalize this without knowing specifics of your life. But I mean, that's true for anything, but this one feels particularly tender. And if you have a Libra ascendant, your chart has been getting really activated this past year and a half because the nodes have been in Libra and Aries. And so all the eclipses over the last year and a half have been activating your ascendant and descendant. So you're probably in a pretty deep transformational time period. And yeah. Okay. Then ascendant in Scorpio. Okay. So if you have your ascendant at the very beginning degrees of Scorpio, or actually at the very end degrees of Libra, you might probably have Pluto crossing your IC, this bottom part of your chart, this space between the third house and the fourth house. And you might have Pluto squaring your ascendant and descendant. So again, sort of similar themes to what I just talked about with Pluto being in the fourth house, but Pluto crossing the IC, can be a very deeply activating time where you, on a deep, 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 deep soul level, your own personal power maybe is getting really activated on very powerful deep ways. And you would have Haumea actually going back and forth over your ascendant. So that's a whole other topic I'm not going to get into here, but just to notice there could be this regenerative energy, like this deep soul resurgence of your own power with this regenerative energy of Haumea. Like really, I mean, that is just a really powerful combination together. And you would have Mars going back and forth over your midheaven potentially, because it's in this long-term, it's in this opposition with Pluto over the next several months, 3 times total. I did a video with Chris Skidmore recently about that Mars Pluto opposition, and we also brought in Pandora, who is in the same vicinity as Mars, also doing 3 oppositions to Pluto. Yeah, so you can go back and watch that video. Highly recommend that one as well. Yeah, but if you have a Scorpio ascendant in the later degrees, let's look at that, then what would be more relevant isn't necessarily what I just talked about. It'd be more relevant that Pluto probably is in your 3rd house, and Uranus then is in your 7th house. Okay, so Uranus in your 7th house, just right there. I'm just going to start right there. I'm normally starting with Pluto, but just to say Uranus in your 7th house, you're probably having pretty big quantum leaps, again, also with regard to relationships. So similar to having the Pluto in Aquarius in your 7th house, if you have a Cancer ascendant, if you have this Scorpio ascendant, you also are having your 7th house really, really strongly activated by Uranus instead of Pluto. But, so this really powerful coming into deep truth. What is the quantum, most pure, aligned truth of the divine truth as me? What am I here? How am I here to manifest relationship? What does that even mean to me? What does love mean to me? What does this divine feminine, divine masculine dance mean to me? And I'm not talking about sexual orientation. You could have any sexual orientation, any gender identity. And I'm talking about the pure essence of masculine, feminine, sacred union. Not, am I going to be in a relationship with someone with a gender identity that is similar to mine or different from mine? It's the purity of the energies, not the manifestation on the outside. But anyway, that's a whole topic. Okay, so yeah, so with this Scorpio ascendant, Pluto being in the 3rd house could really be supporting you to come into a quantum leap with regard to how you express yourself, or what communication and your voice. Yeah, your voice while Uranus is transiting your 7th house. So you may be feeling like a sense of being liberated, or like your soul calling you to be liberated and come into a quantum leap with how I relate to others and also how I communicate with others, of course, which of course goes together, right? And so maybe there's been a sense for you in the past of um with a Scorpio ascendant and a Taurus descendant. I mean, there could be maybe in relationships a pattern of control or manipulation or power dynamics, and the sort of balancing of wanting stability, Taurus, but also freedom in another way, and not wanting to be controlled. So that could be playing out in your relating right now with Uranus there, in your 7th house. Really, really, with Pluto now having moved into Aquarius, you could be feeling like a quantum leap in like, whoa, 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 I can't do this anymore in this way. Like I have to come into my own divine truth. Like there's something deep in my soul calling to me about relating and relationship that's different from what I've been experiencing. And one part of me really wants the stability in relating. And another part of me like has to find my own power, has to find my own truth, has to come into the divine truth of who I am. Um, and I'm maybe not sure how to do that, but it's calling to me, and my voice is calling to me. Like I need to have like a quantum leap in my own being to be able to come through in my voice too. So, yeah, and I'd be super curious to just hear how that is for you, actually, because that's a really interesting combination. 7th house and 3rd house. I haven't really thought of that before. Um, okay. So then Sagittarius ascendant. Okay. So Sagittarius is another sign that is a mutable sign and would be getting really activated by the Jupiter Saturn square. So if you have a Sagittarius ascendant, go back and listen to that Jupiter Saturn square video that I did, because that'd be really, really extra relevant for you. But in this case, if you have a Sagittarius ascendant, you probably have Pluto in your 2nd house with Uranus in your 6th house. So you are perhaps getting supported to come into a quantum leap with regard to your finances, your resources, your sense of survival, like how you can get your survival needs met. To come into it like deeply, like from the depths of your soul, come into the quantum realm truth of how I can do my work routines, how I'm here to be of service, 6th house, Uranus in 6th house, and manifest that in a way, like a quantum truth way. And as this is going on, you, again, go back to my Jupiter Saturn video, but you might have Saturn going over your IC with Jupiter crossing your descendant. And yeah, that's just activating other parts of your chart there in a really powerful way. But really, what's the quantum leap? What's the quantum leap you could be taking with regard to, like, what's the quantum leap truth of how am I here to manifest, be of service, and allow the abundance, like the resources of the divine, to really move through my being in a quantum leap kind of a way, so that I can be freed up to do what I'm here to be of service, how I'm here to be of service, that's in the most divine aligned truth of my being. All right. And then Capricorn ascendant. Okay, so here's another one where, depending on the degree of your ascendant, this is going to be really, really important. if you have an ascendant at the end, the very end degrees of Capricorn, you probably know it because you've just had Pluto crossing your ascendant. And this is also true for you if you have your ascendant in the very, 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 very beginning degrees of Aquarius. So I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so if you have Pluto on your ascendant, like it just crossed your ascendant, like let's say it's at your ascendant is, 28, 29 degrees of Capricorn, or 0, 1, or 2, or 3 degrees of Aquarius, this would apply to you. So Pluto crossing the ascendant, that's a big deal. That's a big, 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 big deal. It's like a mega, mega time of transformation in your life. Like, probably you're aware of, of that reality. I would guess there's just like some big, I don't know, all kinds of things maybe transforming in your life on all kinds of levels. If that's true for you, let us know how that is for you. If your life is stable and nothing is changing, I would love to know that. That'd be super fascinating because that would be really shocking and surprising. But with the point being that it's like your identity is like the caterpillar going into the chrysalis and then coming out the other side as the new butterfly, right? Like just who you are is really being supported in that way. But for most of Capricorn rising, that will have been true years ago. Maybe you can point back to when that was true for you in the last several years, somewhere in the last 16 years, that would have been true for you. But in general, you probably have Pluto in your first house. So in general, you're probably, if it's not such an acute, transformation of who you are still having Pluto in your first house. So there could be this quantum leap now of a transformation of just who am I? Like, how am I manifesting myself in the world? Not so much like how am I showing up in my career, even it could be that, but more like, what is my identity? Literally, who am I? Like, and to go from Pluto and Capricorn in your first house to Pluto and Aquarius in your first house, it's like, okay, you also will have Uranus over here in Taurus in your fifth house, right? So you could be like similar to the Virgo ascendant that I was talking about, is the sense of the creative life force of source, of the earth itself and of source, but of Gaia rising up through your body and really informing who you are. Like, who am I? Yeah, with the focus really being about who am I, as opposed to the Virgo ascendant, where if you remember, Pluto in that case is over here in the fifth house where Uranus is, but Uranus is up in the ninth house. So for Virgo ascendant, it might be more, not so much who am I, although that might be some component of it, but it's more about the creative life force moving through me then to manifest as what I'm here to teach, or to, my belief systems, or the more of the ninth house stuff. And that emphasis with the Capricorn ascendant is not so much on the ninth house stuff. Although, interestingly, if we bring this in, if you have Capricorn ascendant, chances are you have the South Node currently transiting your ninth house. So there is that component there, but I'm not going to bring that in because it's too complicated. Okay. Yeah. So none of this is black and white, but just giving you some general themes to play with. Okay. So now moving on to Aquarius ascendant, very important, right? So if you have an Aquarius ascendant, if it happens to be 0 degrees of Aquarius, you're having a very interesting time right now. And like I just said, to have Pluto, that would mean that Pluto's currently right on your ascendant. If that happens to be you, let us know. That would be fascinating to know. That's not going to be very many of us, but yeah, if you have Pluto sitting right on your 0 degree Aquarian ascendant, wow. Super, super, super transformational moment. you're getting like this quantum leap, transformational potential, just in general. It's like, whoa, big, big, big celebration moment. Like, wow, wow, wow. Because then you would also have Mars transiting your descendant opposite Pluto. I mean, yeah, that would be a big deal. But for most of you who have an Aquarian ascendant, you probably have Pluto transiting your 12th house with Uranus in your 3rd house. And so for you, I mean, and for anybody who has an Aquarian ascendant, you will have Pluto crossing your ascendant sometime in the next 19 plus years, right? 19 to 20 years. So that will apply to you at some point, like a big transformational time around your identity, etc. But in the meantime, Pluto is probably transiting your 12th house with Uranus in your 3rd house. So Pluto transiting your 12th house, that's really, really interesting, especially in Aquarius. Let me just feel into that for a minute. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of things arise. And again, this is so general, it's hard to speak to it really, really precisely at all. But you could be having a quantum leap similar to what I discussed with, I think it was Gemini rising. If you have Uranus in your 12th house, this also could be true. You could be having this sort of quantum leap with regard to your relating to the spirit world, to spirit in general, to the divine, your sense of your own connection to the divine, your own power in your relationship with the divine. And there could be a sense of you letting go of trauma with regard to your relationship with the divine. Because Aquarius often is associated with trauma. So I haven't really brought that up. I haven't really felt called to bring that up in the other signs so much. I'm not sure why, but suddenly that's coming in. So maybe someone needs to hear that. Yeah, but they're definitely, Pluto in Aquarius in the 12th house, there could be a sense of letting go. Anything transiting the 12th house, often there's a sense of letting go and endings, and then eventually new beginnings coming. But Uranus in Aquarius, oh my goodness, Pluto in Aquarius in 12th house, this the feeling I'm getting in my body is the sense of letting go of previous ways in which maybe you felt different and scared to be different, like it was very unsafe and scary to be different. And yet you are here. If you have an Aquarian ascendant, you're here to be yourself. Like you're here to manifest the divine truth of unique, specific you. And you're here because you're really learning to be okay with the reality that you are the unique, beautiful, perfect you, quantum you. There's no one else like you. And yet being you previously in previous lives or in this lifetime maybe has been very, very, very scary, very traumatic. And so Pluto transiting your 12th house could be a time when you're really letting go of that trauma. For whatever reason, that's coming up very, very strongly. So I don't know if someone listening to this needs to hear that. And then at the same time, you would have Uranus in Taurus in your 3rd house. So again, similar to Pluto and Aquarius in the 3rd house for the Scorpio ascendants, there could be this opening of your voice again, which goes along with, letting go of that trauma associated with being different or yourself or kind of ahead of the times or unique in some way, right? Like being a voice, a conduit of divine truth, being okay, being safe, and that really this being a time of potential quantum leap with you feeling okay, safe, and held to be that conduit, that voice of the divine that you are, and a conduit of the voice of Gaia too. All right. And moving on to last but definitely not least, Pisces ascendant. And Pisces ascendant is going to be another one where the Jupiter Saturn video I did would probably be very, very extra relevant for you. Would definitely recommend listening to that. And just to say again, last week, we just had Saturn go direct at 12 degrees of Pisces. So if your ascendant happens to be around 12 degrees of Pisces, very, very important. That's really important to know that Saturn just went direct on your ascendant. So, again, go back and listen to that video. But if Saturn just went direct on your ascendant, then, you're really being supported to come into yourself as the elder wisdom keeper that you are, like to really mature into who you are on some level, grow up a notch in a sense, or like, yeah, just be really supported and held to like bring strength into your world and structure that you need in some way. And if you have a Pisces ascendant, probably you're very, 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 very sensitive, right? And very empathetic and really open on some level to lots and lots of things coming in from the spirit world. And so to have Saturn either going direct on your ascendant or crossing your ascendant could be just bringing in lots of support. Because those of us who are highly Piscean, like I am, my ascendant is Virgo, but my Mercury and my sun are in Pisces. And, so I definitely am very, very, very Piscean, and a lot of you are. And yeah, that whole energy, I feel like the Saturn in Pisces is actually super helpful right now because it's giving us the kind of structure and support that we often don't feel in that wide open Piscean energy that we are so strongly experiencing a lot of the time, many of us. So yeah, that could be a really cool energy for you. But in general, if you have a Pisces ascendant, probably Pluto is transiting your 11th house, and Uranus, this is showing in the 3rd house, but oh, you know what? When I talked about the last one, I should have been talking about Uranus in the 4th house. Okay, yeah. So this is going to be like, it's a little squidgy. Is that a word? I'll go back in a second and talk about Uranus in the 4th house for Aquarius ascendant. Because yeah, you would either have Uranus in your 3rd house or 4th house. But let me just talk about right now Pisces ascendant and Pluto in 11th house with Uranus in 3rd house. Or possibly Uranus in 2nd house. Okay, I'm going to talk just a little bit about both. Okay, so if you have Pluto transiting your 11th house and Uranus in your 3rd house, that combination could feel like Pluto could be giving you this kind of quantum leap opportunity with regard to your relationship to community, friendships, how you're called to be in the world. You could be getting an opportunity for a quantum leap with regard to finding like your soul tribe, essentially. Like who else vibrates literally at your same frequency or a very similar or some kind of harmonious frequency. And then you would have Uranus in your 3rd house, again, activating your voice and that vibrational quality of your own being and the way you want to communicate. And so there could be this just like a big, big emphasis. If you have Pisces rising and Pluto and Aquarius in your 11th house and Uranus in your 3rd house, it's like, wow, I often feel so sensitive. And like, this could be a time when you really come into your soul tribe and feel able to really let your voice be true, ring true. And possibly if you have Pisces rising, Pluto in the 11th house, you might you might have Uranus in your second house. Okay. So if that's true, then it would be maybe more a sense of this quantum leap available not only with regard to your soul tribe, but also, how are you going to manifest resources? What's the divine truth of how your divine resources are going to come in? Or how can I have my soul tribe, this quantum leap of a soul tribe, and survive in a way that's really deeply in alignment with the divine truth of me? Okay, and I'm just going to backtrack for a second because I didn't talk about Uranus in the fourth house. Yeah. Okay. At least I don't think I did. So, just in case I didn't. Okay, so this would apply if, let's pretend you have an Aquarian ascendant. I mean, okay, if you happen to have Uranus in your fourth house, you might have Pluto in your 12th house. You might have Pluto in your first house. It just depends on the way your chart is configured. But yeah, okay, so just really briefly, if you have Uranus in your fourth house, Pluto in your Uranus in your fourth house, Pluto in your first house, that would be at the very end degrees of an ascendant in Capricorn. Okay. And so, Pluto would be doing this, helping you, supporting you in this quantum leap around your identity at the same time that Uranus is helping you to ground into what do I really truly need on the emotional body level? What is my divine truth about what family is, about who is my, this is more like soul family, soul identity, and what's going to support the true needs of my emotional body being. And then if you, let's say you have Pluto transiting your 12th house with Uranus in your fourth house, that would probably apply for you if you happen to have very early degrees of Aquarius ascendant. Again, just depending. But let's pretend that's the case for you. Pluto in your 12th house. So that letting go of that trauma, associated with maybe being different and your way of relating with the spirit world or whatever it happens to be, with Uranus in your fourth house. Again, bringing this divine truth, this divine alignment with what do I actually need on that deep emotional body level. And that, so both could be really combining in this powerful way to help you feel safe, to help you feel like that tender part of you to feel okay and to get what it needs. And for Gaia even to be guiding you in the reality that you are okay, you are safe, you are held, and your body wisdom knowing what you need to feel held and safe as you're doing that letting go of the trauma. So you can really eventually become that butterfly that is you, that is here to manifest as then Pluto. If this is true for you, Pluto would soon be crossing your ascendant, right? So you're coming up on a very deeply transformative time. And one of the keys would be really, really honing your knowing of your emotional body needs and honoring those very, 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 very deeply and strongly. All right. We did it. It was all of the houses, I think. Awesome. Okay. So, like I said, that's kind of a overly generalized, but that's how these kind of videos go. And yeah, let me know what spoke to you, what didn't speak to you, if that was helpful or not helpful. And what comes alive for you, what came alive for you here, what was true for you or not true for you. But the overall theme I hope you're getting is that I really feel, I'm personally feeling this, like this, the potential here is this quantum leap, right? And in future videos, I'll also bring in the reality of the Pleiades playing into all of this. So as Uranus later in the next few months moves more directly into the Pleiades and is in this trine with Pluto. Pluto already is trining the Pleiades, but I have a suspicion that a lot of us are going to feel the call of the Pleiades in a very strong way, and so as that kind of comes in more for me, it's not quite here yet, but as it clicks in more deeply, I'll bring that more in, and I would love to hear your feelings. Are the Pleiades calling to you right now? They've definitely been calling to me. I just haven't, it hasn't like clicked fully. Probably it will more in the next 2 to 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months. And yeah, I feel them. They have a voice here. Like they have a component that they're going to be bringing in. I have that very strong feeling for many, 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 many of us. And a kind of remembering that they'll help us do as we come into this quantum leap time, right? Like I think they have a very specific role they're trying to play with their own divine, pure love light. And so you could just feel that, like wherever I said Uranus probably is in your chart, or if you have access to your own chart, take a look and just feel that part of your chart where the Pleiades is. Again, it's 29 degrees of Taurus, 1-ish degrees of Gemini, just in that general vicinity. The end degrees of Taurus, the very beginning degrees of Gemini. Notice where that falls in your chart, or just even just where it just calls to you in life. Like it doesn't have to fall in your chart in a specific way. You don't have to use your brain about it. Just be with them. They're visible right now. You can go out in the evening actually at this time of year and be with them. So yeah, and Jupiter is super bright and really beautiful right now. And Jupiter is in Gemini, but in the sky, not too far from where the Pleiades are. So if you find Jupiter, which is super, super bright and rising over the eastern horizon in the evening, then kind of up to the right from Jupiter is where the Pleiades are. And you can use the Stellarium app and help yourself to find the Pleiades, or just be with Jupiter or be with anything that calls to you out there under the sky. Yeah, but I have a feeling that the Pleiades are going to be talking to us quite a lot in this coming year. So that's a whole other component to bring into all of this coming up. Alrighty. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, I would really, really love for you to subscribe. I'm also putting links here for gazillion things. There's a free new community that I have just opened up. So please join that free community. It's a sharing space, online sharing space. Would love to have you be part of that. There's a free gathering coming up on December 22nd, 2024. I would love to have you be part of that. You can download a free 2025 Cosmic Wisdom Guide where I talk about 6 of the top astrological themes of 2025. That's free, and access that. I'm also hosting a workshop on the astrology of 2025 where I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of the themes of 2025. That's coming on Monday, December 9th, 2024. And it'll be live and recorded, so you can access that anytime. If you're planning on signing up for any of my astrology courses in 2025, I'm basically going to give you that workshop, the Astrology of 2025 workshop, for free. I'll have those links available soon for you to start signing up for my 2025 courses. But if you want to sign up for the workshop, before you sign up for the courses, when you sign up for the workshop, I will give you a coupon to basically get your money back from the workshop when you sign up for the courses, any of my astrology courses next year. So those astrology courses are going to be my Astrology 101 course, which is starting in February. There's a link here with this video you can fill out a form to let me know you're interested in that, if you are. And then that's starting in February. In April, I'm starting this Stars Speak course, which is going to be me holding the whole thing, but I'm going to have guest speakers. Chris Skidmore will be doing a monthly component of that. And then the guest speakers are amazing. They are Kaylin Castell, Heather Ensworth, Divine Harmony, and Julia Balaz. So that's starting in April of 2025. 2025. I'm super excited about that. And then my third one is the Astrology 102 course, which is available for everybody who's done the 101 course this year. So if you're planning to sign up for any of those three, I'm going to be just basically giving you the Astrology of 2025 workshop for free. And yeah, and I'll have all of that available hopefully in the next week or so. But if you're interested in any of it, let me know. Just email me. That'd be great for me to know. Or fill out the form I have linked here if you're interested in the Astrology 101 course. That would really help me to know that you're interested. And what else? I feel like there's more. I'm also starting in January a monthly series called a Year with Ben Weiss and Friends. So I'll say more about that soon. I will also have that ready to sign up for soon. That's going to be a monthly series where every month I do a channeled guided experience led by these inner mountain beings I just have been channeling recently. And then other benevolent beings of other benevolent realms like unicorns or ocean beings or whoever it is that needs to speak in that month. And over the course of the year, they will be sharing with us and opening back up through our own beings, not only through me, but through you as well, their healing knowledge essentially. And so it'll be based like the common denominator each month will be these inner mountain beings. They'll kind of be our hosts, you could say. But then over the course of the year, other benevolent realms will come in and share with us as well. So that's going to be every Friday, sorry, 2 Fridays a month, starting in January. And yeah, I will have all of those links available hopefully very, very soon. I'm working on them. And yeah, so many things, so many things. So join anything and everything that calls to you. I would love to have you be part of whatever you feel called to, and reach out with any questions. And I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for being here.